Hello everybody, this is Soundwarp SG1 again. Kind of continuing off of the last video. This is going to be another video kind of going over kind of a basic sort of tool for modding minis, and again, just also like last time, also just even if you're doing minor stuff like rebasing, probably a good kind of tool to have. But this time we're going over X-Acto knives or hobby blades, whatever you want to call them. X-Acto knife is the kind of main name brand, and like I said in my last video about the cutters, I like to use the cutters for a lot of stuff. Some people use X-Acto knives for because the cutters are safer, because these things are sharp and they are fairly easy to nick yourself with, especially if you are like me and don't always remember to observe the best like knife safety practices. So, but these things, they're still obviously like they have a lot of uses, and you really can't, in my opinion, you really can't do much modding kind of stuff without having an X-Acto knife. It's just a basic tool, and you definitely don't want to be trying to do mods with like any kind of regular knife or a Swiss Army knife or anything like that. It's like you want a hobby knife because they're the right size, they're nice and ergonomic, and as you can see, the blades are kind of miniature sized and not the size of a person's hand or arm, like a forged in fire knife that, you know, it will cut. But these will cut, but just they're also controllable for the scale of work we're doing. And like I said, X-Acto is the name, kind of main name brand with an X. If you've seen the Lego movie, it's like that's where they get the blade of exact zero from, or whatever. Obviously this one is an X-Acto knife. These other ones are not. They're just kind of like, this one here is just some other brand, and this one is Excel or something like that. I don't notice typically a big difference between brands necessarily. The big thing is more just the construction of them. And like that's partially why I have this one out. This one has this sort of grip to it, and that's one, I guess, if your hands slip more, you might like it. I personally find this a little bit more irritating, and so I wouldn't get one like that probably unless you really expect to need it. The other thing is, I don't have any because I don't like them, so I don't buy them. But there are certain ones that are still kind of hobby knife things, but they have slightly different construction with how the blade is equipped. And I find a lot of those don't hold the blade that steady, and holding the blade steady is the most important kind of feature here, because as you can see, like I can grab this one, it doesn't really go anywhere, and I can kind of grab this and it doesn't really go anywhere. So what you want to look for is this kind of just sort of same kind of texture as on that stuff. It's sort of a little grip here, and it's just you unscrew it and the blade pops out, and the whole thing actually kind of disassembles. If you really have to clean it or anything like that, you can take out this and fit all that, but you should pretty much never need to do that. And then once it's when it's out, to replace it, all you have to do is just sort of slide it in, which, apologies that it's hard to do this on camera, but it's going to slide it in and spin it around, and pretty basic stuff, and just make sure it's nice and secure. As you can see, it gets a good grip. Like I said, there are other ones that I've noticed a few that have like a shaft, an internal shaft running through, and like these are metal on the outside. There's some that are the main thing I noticed with these, I haven't seen one that's metal, is there are some that are plastic on the outside, which I personally don't like the feel of that much anyway. And they have like a shaft running through the whole thing, and like a bit on the end that somehow it kind of works with this part. And anyway, those ones I've never liked. I feel like they pop out, and I've never preferred that style. But these, said this one's an X-Acto knife, this one isn't, and except for that little rim, this little ridging thing, they're the same kind of construction. And the basic construction here, I find, is just kind of what you want to look for, and they're hold up fairly well. As you can see, this one's kind of old. You can see all the gunk build up on it, and it still has a nice kind of grip. So that's the main thing kind of want to look for. And the blades, all these blades are all number 11 blades, which as far as I could figure out is sort of like a standard. Like even if it's not a blade made by the X-Acto company or whatever, it will still be. Like I have these Model Master brand blades that are, as you can see, number 11, same kind of thing, and they're just, you know, in a little package here, and I can open it up for you guys. So anyway, there are lots of other sizes of X-Acto knife blades, not all of which will fit in these style of X-Acto knife. These ones, at least for the X-Acto company or whatever, are called like the actual holder bit. This part is called like the number 1 or something like that, and it holds the number 11 and a couple other blades, because there's actually like a bigger version of the number 11 that goes in a different one, and then there are lots of random specialty ones that I don't really use many of those, because most of them I feel like what they seem to be for are tasks that I wouldn't use an X-Acto knife for. Like they're more for like scraping or something, which I would rather have some kind of dedicated tool for. But anyway, as you can see, like if you need to get replacement blades, they just usually come in a little pack like that, and you can pop them out and grab one, or usually you just want to pull out one. And I haven't actually used these Model Master ones before. That's why you can see it's still open. I don't really know how good they are, but usually most of the blades are, of minimal difference. This one, if you can, it's hard to see on camera, but it has this slight kind of gold tinge, which it also has on the rim there. Let me pop it out so I can, it's actually listed on here. But it's a special X-Acto blade that's Z series is what these are called, and they're actually from like the X-Acto company or whatever. And they have like a zinc carbide or some chemical coating on them, and according to the company, they're like their hardest blades ever and whatnot. And I have noticed a difference in their cutting, like, so it's not all hype, but not enough where I'd say like you have to get these over anything else. But for like really precision work, I have noticed that they seem to have a bit more control, where they're cutting a bit smoother without me having to worry about them as much. So it might be something worth checking out if you kind of really notice that you need a sharper blade. Main thing with these, by the way, is if your blade is getting dull at all, like you think your blade is dull or anything like that, just replace it. Don't try to save blades or keep them past their prime, because they're not that expensive to replace, and they the dull blade was still very sharp enough to cut you, just not enough to cut things that are significantly harder than you, like plastic. So they're still dangerous to you, but with the added bonus of now that they're dull, they'll start to skid off of the things you're trying to cut and into you easier. So always replace your blades if you think they're dull, or even if you just know that you've used it for a fair bit of time, just probably go ahead and replace it, and better safe than sorry. But anyway, within the context of figures, I'm not going to try to do too much work kind of in front of the camera here, because it's a little dangerous. But like I said, for a lot of things, like if I would say to remove this guy's arm, I'd probably just use clippers, but you can obviously do it with an X-Acto knife. You just kind of have to be sort of careful, and you want to always kind of hold the blade away from you, which I'm left-handed, so to me it seems like it's a little bit harder. I don't know if it's either just I'm clumsy or it's actually a left-handed thing, but who knows. But yeah, they can do kind of general trimming and cutting. They're good for if you, like, say you wanted to do his head and you wanted to get it at the kind of a slopey angle, because that's how his head is actually connected to things. It's not just a flat seam where you can kind of cut. They are good for that over the clippers. And the other thing is just you can use them to kind of sort of just clean off, scrape off things or smooth things, especially with mold lines that you see on some figures. You can, just basically rub like that, and it will kind of clear off little residual what sits and things, or like if you needed to kind of smooth the bottom of one of these things, you know, you can do scraping kind of action. So that's a good kind of use for these. And like I said, just obviously regular cutting, or you can also sort of, if I wanted to make his hat like have more of a slope to it, I can actually I could trim off the end, you know, kind of trim around there and make it like a little bit pointier edge if I wanted to. Lots of uses for these things. Just again, they are really sharp, so be careful when using them. But anyway, that's this video. Next video will be coming soon, probably be about super glue, which is kind of the other part of the holy trinity of sorts of modding tools. And anyway, hope you enjoy this video. And one more time, X-Acto knives are sharp, so be careful. Peace out.